afternoon panels. It's always a challenge. At Friday afternoon. So if you put all these pieces together, it's exactly the puzzle you need in order to have a big challenge. But I'm sure that, thank you, the panel, the topic we'll address today, and our panelists will keep you and us focused for the next 50 minutes. So my name is Carmen RâJNOVEANU. I'm the director of the Institute for Defense Policy Studies and Military History with the Ministry of National Defense. And today I have the pleasure to chair this panel. I would like first of all to thanks the organizers, especially Mr. George Scutaru, for inviting me in this capacity, but also for being partners within this panel. I'm sorry, just a moment. So, our today conversation will look a little bit more deeper into the latest or most recent developments in the Black Sea. I know that you heard a lot of the Black Sea in the last 2 days, and it's important to discuss about this region. And I'm sure that what we will discuss today will bring some more clarity or some more perspectives to help you understand better why it's important to discuss about this region. So discussing the latest developments, the topic of our panel, as you could see from the agenda, is security dynamics in the Black Sea, implications for regional and global security architecture. What I would like to say at the beginning, just a few thoughts. I think that it's a general consensus that the Black Sea has become a geopolitical hotspot. Well, the main question is, if it's a geopolitical hotspot, how do you look at the Black Sea and what we see when we look at the Black Sea? Basically, of course, we see a lot of challenges, threats, sources of tensions, and conflicts. But we see also potential, resources, opportunities. The idea is that you cannot properly use these resources and this capacity you have because you have this kind of instability. So it's obvious that we need to understand that we need to do something to manage or to handle these dynamics. To make the West understand that it needs to be more engaged in the region in order to help the countries to benefit from the resources which existed in the Black Sea. It's not a secret saying that, of course, much of the security, much of what is happening in the Black Sea depends, of course, on the outcome of the war. But this doesn't mean that, meanwhile, there are not things which can be done. So the question is, sometimes, do we really understand how important is the Black Sea? Sometimes I ask this question, but I'm sure that this and other aspects will be brought into discussion by our speakers, and we have with us 4 distinguished and knowledgeable speakers, 3 of them here with us in this room. And another one, Michaël, for sure, he is with us via VTC. From Michaël, I hope that you hear us. Perfect. So you are with us from far away, but we are feeling you as being with us here in Bucharest. So before starting our discussion and inviting you for your brief statements at 5-6 minutes on the topic of the panel, I would like to introduce you very briefly. There are many things to be said about each of our speakers, but we don't have time, so I will be very brief. To my right, immediately to my right, I will start with Dr. Carlota Garcia ENCINA. She has a...
To your left, I think.
To my left. To my left. Thank you. She has a solid background in international relations with a special focus on US security and defense policy, which is very interesting. Currently, she's senior analyst for the US and the transatlantic relations at the Elcano Royal Institute for International Strategic Studies in Madrid. I said that's interesting because it's everything it's connected to America. It's very interesting. That's why I mentioned that. Next to Carlota, Your Excellency Ambassador Michaël ROUX, a French diplomat who served in diverse capacities and assumed significant roles within the French Ministry of Europe and Foreign Affairs. Currently, he is ambassador for the Eastern Partnership and the Black Sea. Next to Ambassador ROUX, I would like to introduce Ambassador Lazar COMANESCU. About Ambassador COMANESCU, I can say a lot of things. He has a long-standing and outstanding diplomatic career, but I would say only that he was Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador of Romania in Germany, and currently he is the Secretary General of the Black Sea Economic Cooperation Organization. And we have with us also on the screen Mykhailo SAMUS, Mr. SAMUS. He also has a long and rich career of over 20 years in media, security and defense analysis and consultancy. He served for 12 years in the Ukrainian Armed Forces. Currently, he's a head of the new Geopolitics Research Network. Thank you so much to all of you for accepting our invitation to participate and contribute to our panel today. And I would like to start our dialogue. And I would like to invite Ambassador ROUX, having in view that he is the only ambassador of the Black Sea we have, to share with us some of his thoughts concerning the latest developments, the latest dynamics in the Black Sea, and to tell us or give us your views on how these dynamics, recent dynamics, impact on regional stability and security. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this introduction. I would first greet Mr. Secretary General. I'm happy to meet him again. So I will try to respond to some of the questions you raised, but things which were mostly about security. But since you raised other topics about the opportunities in the Black Sea, I will maybe start to get away from my paper to remind that France has just worked out a strategy for the Black Sea region. It was this is a governmental strategy which was adopted in the beginning of this year. The US does have such a strategy since 2023, and the EU will produce very soon a joint communication of the Commission and the Eastern External Services, maybe in June, and to be presented to the Council. We'll see. the 5 points of our strategy are as follows. The first one is security. Mostly all the help that can be rendered to Ukraine, but also the support to our NATO allies in the Black Sea, which are facing the Russian threat. We have a point on Moldova and hybrid attacks in the Black Sea. And we have also a point on the EU defense industry in the Black Sea. This is the first point. The second point is about enlargement. You were speaking about opportunities. One of the effects of this war, and the main effects, which will remain in the long run unless catastrophic scenario, is the new dynamic of the new enlargement. And this will draw interest and growth in the region for a long time. Let's hope so. So all the support we can render to enlargement process. And the third point is about Turkey. We cannot develop a strategy in the Black Sea without constructive cooperation with Turkey, with a member of NATO, candidate to the EU, who has a role in the control of the straits, as per the Montreux Convention, and the Minister of Defense of Turkey heavily insisted on that this morning, and which is a very great economy. You were speaking of the changes in the last years. With what's happening with the change in Washington, I can see a change that Turkey is more in need of the support of Europe for its own security than it used to be. And on the other side, Europe, with the Russian pressure, needs more Turkey to face and contain or deter Russia. So we have a moment. We have to work with Turkey. The fourth point, and this is not very well known, that the war of 2022 has brought growth in the Black Sea. If you look at the projections of the IMF, there is much more growth in the country of the Black Sea than in Europe. It's about 4–5%. If I take apart Russia and Ukraine, which faced recession because of the war in the beginning, there is growth. And France trade, for example, for the Black Sea has increased of 20% in 2022, and then again 23% in 2023. Last year it was a bit less, 4%. But you see that the situation, the reorganization of trade, has brought growth in the Black Sea and opportunities. And we have many other subjects in the Black Sea with food security, energy security, and connectivity between Asia and Europe. And we have a fifth point in the strategy, which is about people-to-people relation. So this said, to respond to your point on the opportunity, I will come to the question you raised about what are the main changes, evolutions since 2022, or how has the security situation in the Black Sea region evolved since the onset of war. The first point, the main point, is that Russia has become the main threat to our security, to the security of Ukraine, to the security of the Black Sea, to the security of Europe, and to the global security. So this neo-imperialism is a very long process. It started militarily in 2008, but it can be dated back to the 90s with the frozen conflicts, and most of the frozen conflicts which arose from the dismantlement of the Soviet Union are in the Black Sea. And this morning I did participate to a panel on Transnistria. The main changes we've seen since 2022, first, this is a change of military nature of the war. It's about security. I'm not a specialist, but what was supposed to be a blitzkrieg turned into a war of trenches. What was a war of artillery turned into a war of drones. What was supposed to be a battle turned into an industrial war. And another point, which is remarkable, is that Ukraine, without a classical fleet, proper fleet, managed to push back the Black Sea fleet away. Many other important changes. NATO has changed. It has enlarged. It has reinforced its presence on all the eastern flank and in the Black Sea. The EU has changed. It has changed its view on the strategic autonomy, and it has changed both its ambition and means for defense and defense industry. Russia has changed. It is even less democratic than it was. It is completely turned to the war economy. And we may say that the present power in Moscow has turned this country into a war machine, and it's quite difficult to see the way out. Now, second question which was raised is what are the implications of Russian military presence in the Black Sea for the neighboring states and global security? The first point is that with impressive courage and ingenuity, the Ukrainians managed to stop the invasion. So Russia was stopped, but it reached its maybe what was its minimal goal in the war, which was to make the connection on the earth with Crimea. Russia has clearly no intention to stop in the Donbass and Crimea, and as long as there will be an imperialist and aggressive country in Crimea, it is quite difficult to imagine a peaceful and stable Black Sea. So in the present circumstances, if there is no deterrence, there is no security for Odessa region, no security for Moldova, no security for the Danube Delta, and we have many things to fear in the other places of Europe, in the Baltic states especially. And I may add, with the discussions underway, if there is a recognition of conquests of Russia, which is their demand, we open sort of a Pandora box for the global security with domino effect, and there could be no more peace and security in the world as we had before. This said, I will respond to a third question, which you did not raise, but I will respond, is what to do. And this is the main point of our action and presence. I'm sorry, I am trying not to be too long. The main point is we have to close the Pandora box and to revert to a rule managed by international law and not force. So deterrence is the main point. And we have an immediate challenge, which is to build a just and lasting peace to Ukraine and to put end of this war of aggression. So we welcome the efforts undertaken by Washington to obtain the cessation of hostilities, but this cannot be a pure capitulation of Ukraine, not any peace. It has to be a just and lasting peace. So to get this, the immediate priority is the establishment of a complete unconditional ceasefire. And the second priority is to prepare solid guarantees for Ukraine. I do not want to be too long, but I can come back on this with the questions. So this is a challenge in the short run. And the other challenge in the long run is to build a credible defense for Europe with a strong defense industry. There were many panels on that. I will not come back. But this is the real challenge in the long run because of the situation. So this is it. I'm sorry in front of Mr. Lazar COMANESCU because he likes to see the Black Sea as a country of cooperation rather than a space of cooperation rather than a space of confrontation. We had this in the 90s when the organization was created, and we all hope we could turn back to that. But this is not our choice. We have to, for the moment, to stop the expansionism we are facing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Roux. What I would like, I know that in the last 2 days, and not only, those of you who are watching closely regional developments or the issue of regional security, you know that we keep discussing about why it's important, that Black Sea is important. And especially it's important from strategic, geopolitical, geoeconomic point of view. If you look on the map, I will not repeat things which have been already said several times during the last 2 days. But if you look on the map, it's easy just to look on the map, and you'll see why it's important and what's important as a connection bridge, why it's important. This is why it's important to have stability, because otherwise we cannot never use the opportunities we have, the resources we have. That's the problem. We countries from the Black Sea, around the Black Sea, can use these resources, yes, only if there is stability. And Ambassador, maybe we have time to discuss in the Q&A session about the issue, for instance, of EU integration, European, the continuation of this process of integration is part of such a process of supporting regional stability, right? So maybe we can discuss about it, what to do. But now, please allow me to, and I'm looking at Ambassador Lazar COMANESCU, and I would like to, Ambassador, this is the well-known narrative that when you look at the Black Sea countries have always find difficult to cooperate, that they cannot speak the same voice, that there are problems always. So it would be interesting to have your perspective, yeah, your thoughts about the level of cooperation between the countries in the region, in your quality as your capacity as a Secretary General of BSEC. For sure you know more about it. Anyway, your perspective will be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll try to do my best to hopefully at least partially to react to your well-justified question. But before that, allow me to thank Ambassador ROUX for having already described the, let's say, latest developments. So he saved me over dwelling on that myself as well. I simply want to say that I subscribe to what he said about recent developments. With that being said, I would also, with your permission, make a rather more general remark at the beginning. Of course, and as you have seen, as I was told, because I was not able to be here yesterday and today until this afternoon, but from what I got, I mean, it would have been, and it was natural, justified that the debates in the various panels were concentrated on mainly on the, let's say, current situation in the Black Sea, and with a particular focus on, let's say, security-related, mainly hard security-related issues. This is one point. But in my opinion, while looking, as I said, in a justified way to the current developments, we also have to look at the region, this region, also from a long-term perspective. I'm saying that because there may be that concentrating almost only on one aspect, on the current and short term, we may lose the view about how things may evolve in the future. So the long-term perspective has to be taken into account. And from this perspective, while I understandably talks are about the war in Ukraine, which we hope will come to an end, justified in accordance with the rules and the international law. So while understandably the discussion as of today are concentrated in almost all corners on the current situation, we have to look into what is after tomorrow. And from this perspective, and coming now to your remark, to your question, we have to look into the fact that this region, despite I usually, when I'm asked about how I feel about this, the region, I quite often say that perhaps the Black Sea region is the region, though, which I mean, I'm now referring to the organization I'm representing, is consisting of the 13 member states. It's not that much. But nevertheless, and this is what I want to say, I think that this is the region where, with such a membership, you probably find the highest concentration of sensitivities, I'm euphemistic, with regards to the relations between each of the countries in the region. And people may ask, how comes that with so many sensitivities, bilaterally speaking, still they've been able to set up an organization like the Black Sea Economic Cooperation Organization, and that this organization continues to function, especially since after 24 February 2022. Well, here is, in my opinion, the asset of this region and this organization. Because although these 13 member states, they do have sensitivities, as I said, among themselves, they are aware about the fact that having this organization and making of this organization an operational instrument for developing cooperation is an added value, and it has to be taken into account appropriately. That's it. And so it was possible. You know, even during this period of war in the region, the 13 member states were able to come up and adopt by unanimity, by consensus, 1.5 years ago, a revised basic economic agenda of this organization. I stress, by consensus, which makes me believe that people are looking into the future, how to make the best use of the potential of this region. Potential in economic terms, first of all, but let's see also the geographical location. Whatever corridors, connectivity you may have between Europe and Asia. And this connectivity has to increase if we look especially where the engines of growth, economic growth are. It's Asia Pacific. But whatever corridor, initiative of this kind, it cannot be, successful without crossing the Black Sea region. And this is one point which has to be taken into account. And that probably made us able to have this basic economic agenda, which is setting the framework for action for the next decade. Point number one. Point number two, we have to take into account realities on the ground. And as I said, there are sensitivities among countries. And when the actors from outside are involving, they have, it's important for them to help mitigating those sensitivities rather than perhaps generating new ones. And from this perspective, I really welcome the fact, Ambassador ROUX was referring to that the European Union is about to adopt a new strategy for the Black Sea region. From what I've got so far, it seems that it may be ready by the end of this month at the level of the Commission, and then submitted to the member states and to the Parliament. From what I've seen, I've been told about that, I think that there are important developments, encouraging developments. There is nevertheless something which I want to point out. To avoid limiting the approach towards the containment dimension. Containment, I think that everybody understands what I'm referring to. We have to look beyond that. This is one point which I want to make. And another one, when such strategies are elaborated and adopted, when I say that there is need to take into account realities, I'm referring also to what has been done in this region and how can one build upon. I've already mentioned the corridors, the various transport connectivity corridors. Let's not forget that this organization has already developed, of course, they are still on paper, but there is a concept, there is a map that, well established about the motorways of the sea in the Black Sea. There is another one which is referring to the Black Sea Ring Highway. All these are, I mean, already contributions to what would be an increased connectivity between Europe and Asia. And there is another point which I've been able to see better perhaps since I've been in Istanbul. There are several actors, countries or international organizations interested in this region, taking initiatives and so on. What it seems to me we still lack is appropriate correlation and coordination among this organization. Let's take, for example, okay, we have the European Union involved. We have the Three Seas Initiative. We have the Black Sea Economic Cooperation Organization. We have the European Union Strategy for the Danube. It seems to me that there is room there for a better coordination, not least for better using the means, including financial ones, available. I think this is an important point as well. And again, building upon and taking into account what has been, albeit but perhaps modest. But look, for example, my recommendation is to look into this new BISEC economic agenda, which is coming up with quite a lot of, I mean, first of all, it establishes the main goals of the organization for the next decade, be it in trade, be it in infrastructure, be it in finance and banking, in environment, and so on and so on. So building upon what has been done, looking into how to better, how to say, mutually reinforce various initiatives aimed at the Black Sea region. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Obviously, we can discuss a lot about what exactly didn't work, what wasn't done properly, let's say, because we all know that there are many initiatives concerning the Black Sea, but it seems to me that the outcomes are not exactly what we expected or we wanted initially. But it's something, but it will be very interesting to discuss, Ambassador, about, as a small question, let's say, related to your intervention, does Russia want to cooperate?
Should I react on the spot or later on? No. Well, as I said, I mean, the fact that I would even say that when you have an organization like the Black Sea Economic Cooperation, having the 13 member states participating around the same table in meetings dedicated to specific areas of cooperation, I think that it is by itself a very important asset. Of course, there are tough debates, but at the end of the day, we've been able, as I mentioned already, to come up with some decisions looking into the future, into the long term. And again, the revised basic economic agenda is, I think, one of the most convincing examples. Or another one very concrete. I mean, you know, there has been the so-called Project Development Fund of the Black Sea Economic Cooperation Organization. And this fund has been dormant almost for a decade. We've been able to revive it this year. And now a first project is about to be launched. Well, it's nitty-gritty, it's a small one, but it is there. And it aims at developing a blue index of blue ports in the Black Sea, helping in, how to say, identifying where the most polluted ports of the Danube are, and what is necessary to be done in order to mitigate this. Just 2 examples. They are the results of what in the last 12 months of the organization.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. For sure, we have time to discuss a little bit more at the end. Now, I would like to invite Dr. ENCINA to share with us her thoughts about the topic. And Michaël, if you agree, I will give you the floor at the end to discuss more about the military dynamics in the Black Sea, to leave, let's say, the hard problems, issues at the end of the discussion, and to have a little bit more time for that. So I would like, Carlota, I know that you are an expert on US foreign and security policy. So maybe when you give us your perspective on the latest security evolutions in the Black Sea, the impact on regional stability. Maybe you can touch upon a little bit about the role of the United States. How the United States is looking at the Black Sea, and when they are looking, what they are seeing in the Black Sea. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Carmen. Thank you for being invited to be in this amazing panel. I think when you need to talk, I mean, when you are going to talk about the US foreign policy, you have started talking about the global order. As the US has been leading this global order for many, many years. So the global order today is described as a strategic or geopolitical competition. This refers to a long-term rivalry between major powers. We have, as we know, the US, and we have China, but we have other powers like Russia. We have regional powers like Iran or like Turkey that have leading roles in this geopolitical competition. And this is a geopolitical competition where it's not necessarily a direct military confrontation. This is about more economic issues, technological issues, political issues. So I think this is also very important, and this is something that we can find in the Black Sea. We have supply chains, we find energy, economy, trade, narratives and values. I'm talking about democracy versus authoritarianisms. We have institutions who shapes the rules of global trade, free navigation, security. So is the Black Sea a focal point of geopolitical rivalry? Yes, because we have the powers. We have, in some ways, the US, we have Russia, we have Iran, we have China. And let me talk about China and Iran, for example, and its presence or its interest in this region. China, for instance, is continually expanding its economic presence in this region through strategic investments. For example, in Georgia, there are investing in a deep sea port. And these investments support Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative, and serves to improve the Chinese geopolitical influence in the region, and also in the so-called the Middle Corridor. Then we have Iran. Also, Iran is leading, for example, the development of the Persian Gulf Black Sea Corridor. This is also a multimodal transport route that is designed to connect the Persian Gulf and Europe. We have, of course, this ongoing war in Ukraine. The instability in Ukraine, it means instability in the Black Sea. So this means, for example, higher insurance, rerouting, economic disincentives for using this so-called middle corridor. This middle corridor is also very important because the Black Sea is a critical node of this corridor. This goes from the Caspian Sea to the South Caucasus. It moves through Turkey or through the Black Sea to reach Europe. So the middle corridor is very important for Europe. I think this is one of the reasons also because Europe is working on this strategy. And this is very important for Europe mainly because it reduces its dependence on Russian resources. So if we focus on just the geopolitical competition, yes, the Black Sea is very important for the geopolitical competition and, of course, for the US. But what about this new Trump administration? Let's focus on these three main players in this region: Russia, China, and Iran, as I mentioned. There is a growing alliances between Russia, China, and Iran. This is important for the US. This strategic coordination of this between these three countries has been growing in military issues. For example, joint raids in the Gulf of Oman, in the East China Sea, and in the Mediterranean. Coordination in energy issues. Russia and Iran cooperate on oil export, and China buys Russia and Iranian energy. In diplomacy, all three support, for example, alternative institutions, for example, the BRICS or the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and oppose Western sanctions regimes and also the US global leadership. What's the view of the US in regard of these three main players? I mean, the view of China is like the primary national security challenge, even though the actions of this Trump administration are contradictory in some ways. There's a lot of ambiguity. In the case of Iran, Trump has reinstated the maximum pressure through executive orders. It's reaffirming its alliance with Israel. That means to deter Tehran, but at the same time, it started negotiating with Iran in order to reach an agreement on nuclear issues. And in the case of Russia, I think that the main objective for the Trump administration and for Trump is to reset the relationship with Putin, to improve the economic exchanges and investment. So we have these main players. We have the new Trump administration, and the actions of the Trump administration are not pushing down or eroding this continued cooperation between Russia and China and Iran. They are not improving their own cooperation, but it's like they can do whatever they want. That's what the Trump administration is telling the rest of the world. Also, in the Trump's foreign policy, there is an implicit acceptance on the return of the great powers dominance of the sphere of influence theory. So Trump agrees that the US can have sphere of influence, for example, in the Western Hemisphere. He's talking about Greenland, about Panama, about Canada being the 51st state of the US. At the same time, he's letting Russia, in some ways, improving its sphere of influence in its backyard. I'm talking about the Black Sea. I'm talking about Russia. For example, I mean, Trump has shown ambivalence about Ukraine's full sovereignty. His team is exploring the recognition of Russia controlling Crimea and limiting Ukraine's NATO aspirations. So even though Trump may not intend to strengthen this axis, not this cooperation between these three countries, the net results of his policies is helping in some way to consolidate their partnership. And all of them have a huge and increasing presence in the Black Sea. The US should pay more attention to the Black Sea, of course, because there are geopolitical reasons, because there are economic reasons, because there are ideological reasons, but the unpredictability and the unilateralisms and transactionalisms of the action of the Trump administration during these months, like the willingness to normalize the relations with Moscow, trying to renegotiate with Iran, the ambiguity in regard of China, and the acceptance of the concept of the sphere of influence that not give us any assurance. On the other hand, on a positive side, Trump's trip to the Middle East and improving the ties with Saudi Arabia and with other Gulf states, and also lifting the sanctions to Iran. We have to remember that Russia uses the Black Sea to intervene in Syria in 2015. These new actions, this new partnership of Trump in the Middle East could weaken the influence in Russia in the Middle East. And this is important because Russia uses the Black Sea to intervene in the Middle East. So I stop here.
Thank you so much, Carlota. I'm sure that we have time to develop a little bit more during the debates. I hope that we have time. We'll have time for that. But it's obvious that geopolitics matters. Geopolitics always mattered. We didn't want to see very well, but the idea is to find a balance between geopolitics and clear national interest, because that's the problem. But it's a long story, and I'm sure that maybe you will tell us more after these interventions. But we need to stay on time. And Michaël, I'm coming to you now. Hello, do you hear us?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, hello.
Michaël, you have a lot of expertise on military matters. We'd like to ask you as well to give us your perspective about, especially about the latest military developments in the Black Sea. The Russians' actions, military actions, and how they impact upon the overall, strategic, military and strategic environment of the Black Sea. So the strategic consequences, the key strategic consequences of Russia's military presence for the next 5 to 6 minutes would be wonderful. Please, Michaël.
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for having me on this event. Of course, I'd like to participate physically in Bucharest, but unfortunately, we have only online possibility now. So, first of all, my warmest greetings from Kiev to Romania, to all of people of Romania supporting us, supporting Ukraine in battle against Russia. And of course, my personal greetings to George Cutaro and his team for a great event as usual. Actually, I very love this forum and other events organized by New Strategy Center. Going to closer to the point and to the topic. Actually, yeah, I very like the opinions of previous speakers, and the ambassador COMANESCU, he told that about the future, about the possibility of an opportunity to have a normal Black Sea cooperation, economical, cultural, actually any business and prospects for our joint great Black Sea environment. But unfortunately, I think my opinion that unfortunately everything is past. Everything we have in past in 90s and in 2000 years, we had great opportunities to build real great space for business and development and in Black Sea, but Russia didn't use this chance, and Russia just decided to destroy all of possible opportunity. And even they showing some, will to participate in such organization like Organization for Cooperation, etc. I'm sure that, in my opinion, this is just using and abusing of this possibility to participate in all of these mechanisms and abuses because of trying to have a dominance in Black Sea. And we remember that since 2008 and especially 2014 after the occupation and annexation, illegal annexation of Crimea, Russia actually tried, and actually they almost made the Black Sea as a Russian lake. We had a lot of discussions before 2022, what kind of Russian lake we have, what is the threats, what are the challenges, but it was true. The Russian lake appeared instead of Black Sea, and unfortunately, no NATO, not the European Union, United States, other countries, Turkey, they couldn't stop Russia to create a Russian lake in Black Sea. And we had this reality before 2022, after 2022, after the full-scale aggression, we have a little bit different. Paradoxically, now we have more stable Black Sea than before 2022. Even exactly 2 hours ago, Russia again attacked Odessa port with 2 ballistic missiles and killed Ukrainians again because maybe they have cooperation. They have some propositions for cooperation. That's why they attacking with ballistic missiles Ukrainian civilian port. But nevertheless, now we have more stable Black Sea. Maybe it's paradoxically for you, but because of Ukrainian 21st century fleet, Mosquito fleet with sea drones, Ukraine were capable, and actually we have a capability to push out Russian fleet at least on the eastern part of the Black Sea. And actually Russian Navy now cannot, based in Sevastopol, they almost all of Black Sea fleet now staying in Novorossiysk. And this is because of Ukrainian military doctrine of sea drone. It's sometimes, and actually even this panel, it was saying that Ukraine even doesn't have a normal fleet. But from my opinion, Ukraine has a real fleet now because it's a sea drones now, a fleet of a navy of a 21st century, and Russia has 20th century fleet. That's why he is staying in Novorossiysk, and Ukrainian sea drones can control even sky, because now we have a Magura V5 drone with air defense assets on the board and controlling the sky. Shut down the Sukhoi 30 a couple weeks ago, maybe you know about it. And now it's an absolutely different situation that we have a couple of years ago. So from the military point of view, we have a even more stable situation than a couple of years ago. But of course, we have a war. We have a war situation. And what is the threats and challenges? From military point of view, I think that the main threat now, it's mirroring that Russia will mirroring Ukrainian doctrine of using of sea drones, because Russia has resources, Russia has, of course, engineers, and I cannot see any obstacles that Russia will produce hundreds and hundreds of sea drones and try attack Ukrainian sea aquatorium and zones, Ukrainian ships, militaries and civilians, and of course it's possible that Russia will attack Romanian water, Romanian economical projects in the sea, etc. So this is, I think, that the main military threat in next years, that Russia will shift from the traditional fleet to Mosquito sea drone fleet, and it will challenge and threat for not only for Ukraine but all of Black Sea countries, including our, and not only Black Sea countries, including European Union and NATO allies. And what is the challenge and main concern, which is I could say, because it's not I'm not famous to discuss it, but you know, when we're talking about any negotiations or ceasefire prospects between Ukraine and Russia, not very often we're talking about the Black Sea situation. So what does it mean, the ceasefire between Ukraine and Russia for Black Sea security? Because if we see only land and even air ceasefire, but what about the Black Sea? What could be the consequences? I have a couple points on it and some conclusions and maybe the describing of Ukrainian strategy on it. So what does it mean, a ceasefire, if we don't include the maritime or Black Sea aspect to the negotiations? And as you see, when we're talking about the negotiations, almost the land and air talking the and limiting the negotiations. No maritime, no Black Sea here, and this is a problem. So if we have a ceasefire, it means that it will be a freezing of Ukraine's drone operations. So it means that Russian Black Sea fleet could trying to get in the western part of the Black Sea and will again challenge and threat not only Ukraine and Ukrainian maritime communications between Odessa, Constanza, and Bosphorus, but I think that they will try to threat and Romanian interest as well. So the freezing without any rules and limitations, it will allow Russia to regroup, rearm, and reintroduce naval forces under legal loopholes. And of course, it will be reinforced Russian hybrid activities in all of Black Sea. As we remember, before 2022, Russians using very often the military exercises, closing the huge areas of Black Sea, and do not allow Black Sea countries to use them even for civilian maritime communications. It will be a strategic opening for Russia. In a frozen conflict scenario, Turkey might be forced to reopen the Bosphorus under Montreux Convention rules, enabling Russia to deploy ships from other fleets, like Baltic, Northern Pacific. So Russia could reinforce the Black Sea fleet from another fleets, and it will be a more militarization by Russians of the Black Sea. And of course, it will be wider regional threat, the more possibility for Russia to use the Black Sea fleet in Black Sea region. It will be endanger Romanian, Bulgarian, and even Turkish security. And actually, Russia could again try to invent and became the Black Sea to Russian Lake. What is the strategic imperatives for Ukraine on negotiations and possible negotiations? Actually, we had first round in Istanbul more than 1 week ago, and maybe we will have in Vatican the next round of negotiations. So what is the strategic imperatives for Ukraine regarding Black Sea? So Ukraine will try to include the Black Sea issues in all of ceasefire scenarios. Ground-only ceasefires are insufficient. Sea and air domains must be included to prevent backdoor militarization of Black Sea by Russia. It should be included to the negotiation demilitarization of Crimea aspect. So it should be a complete withdrawal of Russian forces and naval assets from occupied Crimea, and it will be absolutely a serious point for negotiations between Ukraine and Russia, and I hope it will United States and the EU participate in this. It should be operational ban on Russian Black Sea fleet in western part, at least in western part of Black Sea. So it should be this point in any possible memorandum or etc. on all of documents after the negotiations that Russia cannot freely operate in Black Sea. I mean the military forces. Otherwise, it will be back to the situation before 2022. And of course, it should be naval reinforcement controls on Russian Black Sea fleet. So do not allow the Russians to stop to try to back to the situation of the dominance. So I'm finishing here the conclusion that the Black Sea now is no longer a Russian monopoly, but this is very unstable situation. Any diplomatic process around Russian-Ukrainian war which ignores the maritime dimension will fail to secure the long-term stability. And Ukraine, together with Romania and other allies, including EU and NATO, must lead in shaping a new Black Sea security architecture 1 bill on deterrence, demilitarization, and permanent denial of Russian naval hegemony. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michaël. It's obvious that we are running out of time, and because we are really running out of time, I would like to open immediately the floor for discussions. If there's anyone who would like to say something, to ask a question or to make a comment, just please do it now. If not, I have a question to ask, and I'm looking at Dr. ENCINA, Carlota. You know, there are many discussions about the fact that what is happening in the Black Sea doesn't stay in the Black Sea. Yes, it's a whole story about that. Do you think that is possible, for instance, and why not? Maybe a question where Ambassador COMANESCU, Ambassador ROUX may also step in a little bit. I will come back to Michaël after that, I promise. Is this say that what is happening in the Black Sea may influence the behavior of other actors in other regions? Yeah? And of course, we have in mind the Taiwan dossier, we have in mind the South China Sea. Everything is always connected. You are looking at what the big power or important powers are doing in the Black Sea, how they treat the aggression, yes? And see what if such exercises, let's say, can be repeated in other areas in the world. What do you see? Which is your assessment about such a, let's say, correlation between regions and between behavior of the state actors?
Very quickly, since the beginning of the war in Ukraine, everybody underlined the fact that what was going on in Ukraine was very important for China. I mean, that China was looking at the region, was looking at the response of Europe and the US, thinking about a possibility of any kind of crisis in Taiwan. And I think today what's going on in the Black Sea, and also regarding to hybrid war and cyber, I mean, other actors in the world, I think they are looking, they are learning, maybe. I don't know if they're going to apply what's going on in the Black Sea, but here, of course. And I think it's also very important to look beyond that. For example, we have the issue of the food security, the grain initiative through the Black Sea that goes to the north of Africa, or this is Sahel. For example, that has a consequence for Spain. I mean, I'm talking to a country very far from the Black Sea and for Ukraine, but in some ways we are connected. We suffered the high prices of the grain. We were the first or the second bigger importer of grain from Ukraine. So for us, this is something very, very important and has consequences. At the same time, in the south of Spain, we have a naval base, we have US destroyers, and these US destroyers usually come here to the Black Sea to exercise with other countries and to conduct some kind of operation. So there are some bigger connectivities, and maybe not focus just on what the US is going to do, what other countries in the region are going to do, but maybe try to find other actors that in some ways are connected, or they are suffering some kind of implication. If you have a look to the naval strategic national strategy in Spain, it mentions the Black Sea. So, yes, important.
Yes.
1 minute, each of you. That's it. That's all I can give you at that moment. I'm looking over there. So please, 1 minute, just as a final remark, if you have something to say at the end.
Yeah. Just a minute, as you mentioned, as mentioned at the beginning, if we have to be very careful with the mediation and the underway in Ukraine, as I said, if we let the military conquest drive results and be rewarded, this will open the way to a lot of conflicts in the world, and we have to put back the rule of law over the rule of force. I can say that the negotiations are very difficult because the positions are completely opposite, and Russia does not want to move at all on on their position, so they are adamant. In the discussions underway, they are speaking about the deep root of the conflict, but I mean the real deep root of the conflict is that this concept of limited sovereignties Moscow has for its neighbors, and I think everything stems from that. And this is the only country in the world which would like its neighbors to depend on its choices for defense, for the person who is in power, and so on. And this, of course, is a source of aggressivity for the region and makes peace and the stability and cooperation we would like to nearly impossible. This is what I can say.
Well, very, very briefly. Just a new example, horrible example about the fact that war is not the solution of conflict, of disputes among actors. That's the most important thing, and the spirit of cooperation has to be revived, and that brings us to the need of making everything possible to go by rules and international law. That's it.
Michaël, at the end, to end this panel, may I ask you, please, having viewed how complex is the Black Sea, you know so well all these dynamics, and negative developments. The question is, what's your estimates about how the situation will evolve in the near future, I mean? Which prospects for evolution do you see? Do you have any level, I don't know, of optimism? Or anyway, your thoughts about possible prospects, but please, I know that it's not easy, but 1-2 minutes maximum. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that a lot depends on the position of United States, of course. And we know that the positions is clear for Ukraine. Actually, 11th of March, Ukraine they signed the memorandum with the United States about the non-conditional ceasefire, and we proposed a ceasefire for Russia. But of course, Russia trying to play with time, trying to gain the time to conduct the summer campaign. They are going to conduct the summer operations, and maybe after this, after the Russian economy, because of the low oil prices, will be ready to start some negotiations. But if you're talking about the Black Sea, I think that the most important, when Russia will be ready for some negotiations, a real ceasefire, we need to include all of these Black Sea aspects to negotiations, and trying to create rules on the. Of course, it will be a frozen conflict. It will be a frozen conflict for years after the ceasefire protocol signed or something like this, because I am not sure that it will be more successful negotiations or more complicated details on Russian-Ukrainian relationship. But even ceasefire should include the Black Sea aspects, and trying to demilitarize in maximum demilitarized Black Sea area, and it may be to create some conditions for cooperation. I'm sure that Black Sea should be absolutely comfort area for business, for all of cooperations, economical projects, not military competition here. We don't need a military at all. It's a closed area. It's possible to have absolutely great relationship among all of countries. But unfortunately, Russia still is an imperialistic state. This is reality. So we need to ban Russia to use a military force in Black Sea, and after this will be some prospects for cooperation.
I will let these last statements made by Michaël to be last ones as the ending statements of our panel, because probably this is what we need to hear when we talk about the Black Sea, prospects of evolution, and how to look at the Black Sea. Thank you so much to all our speakers. Thank you so much for this very interesting debate. Fortunately, we are already running out of time. Thank you very much, Michaël. Regards there to Kiev. And please, at the end, we are just a few now, but a round of applause for our speakers. Thank you so much. And now, because the organizers kindly asked me to invite you for the next open session, title One Front, One Vision, One Strategy, at the Diplomat venue, so on the ground floor, in probably 10 minutes. Yes? So in 10 minutes, be there. Thank you.